Welcome back. After the break, you're watching Indus News, and I'm Fiza Jamal with our main stories in detail. We'll start from Pakistan. Addressing a joint session of Parliament, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says India's decision to revoke the special status of occupied Kashmir is against its constitution and United Nations resolutions. Prime Minister Khan said Pakistan will take the matter to United Nations and all relevant forums. He said the Indian decision is based on the ideology of the extremist RSS, which is the ethnic cleansing of Muslims. He said India's act is also a violation of the Geneva Conventions and the entire world will see its repercussions. Opposition leader Shahbaz Sharif said time has come to go beyond more condemnations in response to Indian aggression. Pakistan Military Corps Commanders Conference has supported government's rejection of Indian actions regarding Kashmir. Presided by Chief of Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa, the meeting said Pakistan Army firmly stands by the Kashmiris in their just struggle to the very end. The Chief of Army Staff said Pakistan never recognized the sham Indian efforts to legalize its occupation of Kashmir through Article 370 or 35A decades ago. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi urged the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to take notice of recent developments in occupied Kashmir. Addressing the OIC contact group meeting on Kashmir, Qureshi said India's decision to revoke the special status of occupied Kashmir is against international law. He also said India's decision will undermine regional peace. Diplomats from Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Azerbaijan, and other countries took part in the meeting. And Muslims across the world are protesting against India's unilateral revocation of Kashmir status as a disputed territory. This comes as India scrapped Article 370 of its constitution in a rushed decree. Political parties, civil society, and students held protests against India in Azad Kashmir, Islamabad, and Karachi. Indian opposition and civil society held rallies against the BJP's bill in New Delhi, Bangalore, and Kolkata, amongst others. In occupied Kashmir, political leaders and civilians took to the streets against the abrogation of Article 37. In London, right activists and Pakistani diaspora held rallies outside the Indian High Commission. Meanwhile, Bangladeshi students in Dhaka also expressed solidarity with the people of Kashmir in a rally. Demonstrators chanted slogans against New Delhi's expansionist ambitions in India. Indian and British politicians have reacted strongly to India's move to revoke occupied Kashmir's disputed territory status. The Indian National Congress's ex-president Rahul Gandhi said the ruling BJP violated the constitution to tear occupied Kashmir apart. Gandhi said this abuse of executive power by the BJP will have grave implications for India's national security. Senior Indian Congress leader P. Chidambaram called the move a fatal legal error. British MPs Debbie Abrahams and Richard Burgon expressed deep concern over the Indian government's unilateralism. Both wrote to Secretary of State Dominic Raab about the issue, urging him to take notice of the conflict. Former occupied Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti called it an utter betrayal of trust by the government. Meanwhile, U.S. State Department said it is closely following events in occupied Kashmir after recent developments. The international media has criticized India over a rushed decree to scrap occupied Kashmir's UN-recognized status as a disputed territory. Details in this report.
British newspaper The Guardian wrote that this sudden move will have grave consequences that are difficult to predict. The New York Times wrote India silenced the voice of Kashmir before passing this controversial bill. The Independent wrote, through this decree, the Modi government has shut the door to a democratic, peaceful solution in Kashmir. Calling out the move, Al Jazeera headlined India's suspension of the Article 370, the darkest day in the country's democracy. South China Morning Post said India's secularism claims were the biggest loser after BJP's push for accession.
Moving on, Seoul claims North Korea has fired 2 more missiles into the sea off its east coast. The latest tests follow the launch of joint military exercises between United States and South Korean forces. These are North Korea's 4th such missile tests in less than 2 weeks. South Korea's defense ministry claims the missiles resembled short-range ballistic missiles launched by the North in late July. Spokesperson Choi Hyun-soo says the tests violate an inter-Korean military agreement. North Korea said the joint military exercises in South Korea have forced it to develop and test more weapons. It said the drills violate commitments made in recent talks with United States. U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper said Washington will not overreact to Pyongyang's missile launch. China says it will take countermeasures if United States deploys intermediate-range missiles in Asia. Foreign Ministry Arms Control Chief Fu Song says China will not sit idle and let United States station ballistic missiles in its backyard. Fu urged China's neighbors to be cautious and not allow United States to use their territory. He warned U.S. allies in the region they would face consequences if they host American missiles. This comes after UN's Defense Secretary Mark Esper said Washington wants to quickly deploy new intermediate-range missiles in Asia. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has warned the U.S., saying a conflict with Iran will be the mother of all wars. Rouhani said peace with Tehran will also be the mother of all peace. In a televised speech, he said if United States wants negotiations with Iran, it must lift all sanctions first. Earlier, Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said Tehran will leave the 2015 nuclear deal if necessary. Tensions between Tehran and Washington have escalated over the nuclear deal, maritime security in the Gulf, and United States sanctions. Britain has joined United States in a maritime security mission in the Strait of Hormuz. Defense Secretary Ben Wallace says it's vital to protect freedom of navigation in the key shipping route. The purpose of the U.S.-led maritime security mission is to protect shipping through the Strait of Hormuz amid tensions with Iran. Meanwhile, German Foreign Minister Heiko Maas says his country will not join a U.S.-led naval mission. Speaking to reporters in Poland, Maas said Germany favors a European mission, but warned of the difficulty in making progress. He said it would take time to convince the European Union to carry out such a mission. 4 people have been killed in northwestern Syria after the collapse of the ceasefire agreement between the government and rebels. Several others have been injured after a government airstrike hit the city of Murak near Hama. The Syrian army says it took action after rebels breached the ceasefire by bombing a Russian airbase in Idlib. Both government forces and rebels agreed to a ceasefire during the Astana format peace talks in Kazakhstan on August 2nd. Syria state media has accused Turkey of helping the rebels to launch the attack. United States says it will not accept any Turkish military operation in Syria. Defense Secretary Mark Esper says Washington will prevent any unilateral incursions. Turkey's President Tayyip Erdogan announced on Saturday that Ankara is going to launch a military operation in northwestern Syria. The operation will be Ankara's 3rd offensive to dislodge Kurdish fighters close to its border. Turkey has been in talks with the United States over the establishment of a militant-free safe zone across its border in northern Syria. Erdogan announced the military offensive after Washington ignored its demand for urgency over the matter. The Taliban have said they will do everything to prevent the Afghan presidential elections coming ahead, calling the process a whole sham. This comes after a fresh round of U.S. Taliban talks in Doha failed to reach a peaceful settlement. In a statement, the Taliban told Afghans to stay away from election rallies, saying the events could be targeted. The insurgents say the elections are being held to satisfy certain politicians and are a waste of time and resources. Taliban say Afghans must not repeatedly fall for cunning political traps. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says a peace deal in Afghanistan is closer than it has ever been before. His statement comes as United States and Taliban officials work out the details of an agreement in Qatar. Speaking in New Zealand, Stoltenberg said NATO will not indefinitely stay in Afghanistan.
We will not stay longer in Afghanistan than necessary. But the thing is that we have to make sure that the gains we have made, both when it comes to making sure that Afghanistan doesn't once again become a safe haven for international terrorists, which is actually important for our security.
And earlier, U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad has said excellent progress has been made in the 8th round of the Doha talks for Afghanistan. Moving on, United States has frozen all Venezuelan government assets in a fresh move to pressure President Nicolas Maduro. The White House says Venezuela's assets cannot be transferred, paid, exported, or withdrawn from United States. In an executive order, President Trump has barred Americans from doing business with Caracas. Maduro supporters have been banned from entering the United States as well. The latest sanctions put U.S. trade relations with Venezuela on a par with long-term foes, Cuba, Syria, Iran, and North Korea. Also, United States has officially declared China a currency manipulator amid rising trade tensions between the two countries. This comes after the Chinese central bank let the yuan sink to its lowest level in 11 years. U.S. Treasury Department says Beijing has devalued its currency to gain an unfair advantage in trade. The department says it will now engage with the IMF to eliminate Beijing's competitive benefits. After United States announcement, Chinese media said Washington is destroying the international order. Meanwhile, China has also decided to halt purchases of American agricultural produce. The Chinese Commerce Ministry says the decision was made in response to Washington's new 10% tariffs on Chinese goods. 8 people have been injured in a series of explosions at a Russian military base in Siberia. The Emergencies Ministry says 11,000 residents were evacuated from the Krasnoyarsk region. The ministry says 5,000 more residents are being evacuated. Local administrators ordered Russia's biggest aluminium smelter to shut down as the blaze spread. The detonations at the base have stopped, and emergency services are trying to control the fires. Anti-government protesters have been arrested after they clashed with police in the Nigerian city of Lagos. Protesters from the Revolution Now movement took to the streets, calling for the government to do more or step down. The government condemned the movement, calling it a veiled attempt to destabilize the country. The State Security Service deemed the calls for revolution unlawful. Italy's parliament has approved a decree toughening penalties for migrant rescue ships operated by charities in the Mediterranean. Drawn up by Interior Minister Matteo Salvini, the decree hikes the maximum fines for ships illegally entering Italian waters. The fine has been increased from 50,000 euros to 1 million euros. It also provides for the arrest of captains who ignore orders to stay away and calls on naval authorities to seize their vessels. This comes as Spain's Proactiva Opens Arms charity sought permission to disembark rescued migrants in either Italy or Malta. As the unemployment rate hits an 11-year high in South Africa, people are struggling to make ends meet. Despite President Cyril Ramaphosa's pledge of an economic turnaround, the current statistics portray a bleak future. Job cuts across a host of sectors are set to continue into the next few years. This report has more.
South Africa's unemployment rate jumped to its highest since the global financial crisis more than a decade ago. This has piled pressure on an already shrinking economy. Though the government provides grants, it's not enough for survival.
It's month end, now I have to be looking for specials. My little brothers get a son, I have to go buy nappies, I have to be looking specials, I have to go buy food. I mean, I'm the only sole breadwinner at the age of 30. Well, it's traumatic. I'm looking after two 21-year-olds and a 1-year-old.
Government-owned organisations are also facing huge losses, forcing them to lay off workers. President Cyril Ramaphosa has promised to create 100,000 new jobs, but analysts doubt he can do it.
I think South Africa has been growing structurally like a developed country. So the sectors that have been growing fast have been sectors like the finance sector, construction sectors, and these sectors belong to the non-tradable sectors. So these are sectors that cannot be traded and we can't get revenues from them.
Economists say the government needs to focus more on the agricultural sector. They warn the economy could deteriorate further if it's not prioritised.
And through virtual reality, old people can go places they have never been and check destinations off their bucket lists. Depression and isolation in senior citizens can also be cured through this experimental treatment. More in this report.
Elderly people can finally get a chance to fulfill their long-lost dreams by visiting places they could only imagine or dream of. Recent studies show that virtual reality can help people deal with depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other mental health issues. A team from the University of California, Los Angeles studied the use of virtual reality to treat anhedonia. It is a symptom of depression that creates an inability to experience pleasure or interest in a range of activities.
We use virtual reality to fulfill seniors' wishes. So if they want to go to some place in the world and they've never been to, and it's their bucket list destination, we can actually take them there through virtual reality.
VR demonstration to Cuban retirees helped transport them to the Malecon in Havana, to outer space, to the ocean floor, or to the tops of mountains.
Fantastico. It was fantastic, wonderful. You see a world that you don't know, but that is beautiful. And it's very important for me to learn about the ocean, see the fish, the animals that you don't know about, the dolphins.
The goal is to provide nursing homes with VR helmets as soon as the Equality Lab compiles a more extensive dream library. The VR Genie project, run by Equality Lab, is funded by the Miami-Dade County.
Maxi Edmond Rothschild has defeated Maxi in the 48th Fastnet yacht race in England. Rothschild also ended up breaking the fastest race record set by Maxi Banque Populaire in 2011. Rothschild skipper Franck Camas edged Massif's captain Pierre Quiroga by 58 seconds. The winning crew steered their way to victory in 1 day, 4 hours, 2 minutes and 26 seconds. Massif has led her rival at the start of the day, but Rothschild picked up sail towards the end. Camas said that it was a competitive contest.
Two boats and two crews are very close, and they play very well. They are fast also, and to beat them is it's still more happy.
The record-sized fleet of 388 vessels makes Fastnet the world's biggest offshore yacht race. Moving on, Australia's Olympic gold medalist Sally Pearson has announced her retirement less than a year out from the Tokyo Olympics. Pearson won gold at the 2012 London Olympics in the 100 meters hurdles track event. Pearson says she has been struggling with her fitness since then.
After 16 years of being on the Australian team, it's time to hang up the spikes. It's probably been a hard slog, in particular from the London Olympics to now with my injury issues. It's just ongoing and ongoing, and every time I want to go fast, the body doesn't want to. So.
The European Union says July was the world's hottest month ever. The blog's Copernicus Climate Change Service reported that every month of 2019 has ranked among the 4 warmest on record. Searing heat waves in July saw records tumble across Europe, reaching as far north as the Arctic Circle. The European Union said July was 0.04 degrees Celsius warmer than the previous record hot month, set 3 years ago. It says the unprecedented heat melted billions of tons of extra ice in Greenland. It also sparked wildfires across Siberia and Alaska, releasing 100 million tons of carbon dioxide. The Copernicus Climate Change Service warned temperatures would continue to rise years into the future. And it is exceptionally humid in Lahore today, but let's see what the weather is looking like today around the globe. These are all the main stories in detail I have for you this hour. For further updates, stay tuned to Indus News.